Hey guys, welcome back to Reserved Investments on YouTube. It is time for another whiteboard video where we answer the question, to grade or not to grade? Because when it comes down to maximizing value in the antiques and collectibles trade, if you collect items like this that can be third-party graded, you are obviously better off investing in those items over the short term or over the long term. Now, I got into a titty twister competition to get this little note here, and I think I paid something like $3,800 for this particular note. This is a 1922 $20 large size gold certificate in PMG 65 EPQ condition. This is a pedigree note. It comes from the Midwest Gold Cache. And I got this, believe it or not, off of Great Collections. Now, I kind of had to pay up a little bit to get it, but even in today's high-priced environment, when we talk about numismatics, this would be a $4,000 note. So I didn't really overpay for it. It just is what it is, given where the market is at. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, it's very important that we understand the dynamics between whether or not we should get something graded or we would be better off leaving it alone, meaning we're not going to send it in for grading. We're not going to do anything with the item in question. So this is going to be a quick primer on what to keep in the back of your mind if you want to get something graded, or if you lean towards, this may not be the best use of my time and money. So I want to do this as an introductory video. Then later on this channel, at some point, we're going to break this down even further, and I'm going to apply it to different collecting categories. So I just want to make sure if you are watching this video, this applies to all third-party graded collectibles at present time. So if you collect coins, currency, comic books, sports cards, non-sports cards like Pokemon, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, toys, stamps, video games, whatever it is, if it can be third-party graded, this video is for you. Again, this is a primer. I want to get your mind thinking in the direction as to whether maybe you should get something graded or maybe you should not. So we're going to start. You should only get an item or a collectible graded if it will increase their value. Now, believe it or not, I've been doing this for decades. There are people out there, a lot of people that have their own YouTube channel, that if you would ask them what factors make up the value of an antique or a collectible, they would stare at you blue in the face. Meanwhile, these people are running channels telling you to invest in these top 10 Marvel comics, or these top 10 Marvel Universe trading cards, or these top 10 coins, or these top 10 video games. I'm here to tell you, most people on YouTube that are running a lot of these hype-driven channels do not understand these basics. There are only 4 factors that make an item or a collectible valuable on the secondary market. Those factors are condition, availability, which we do have to talk about because there's a major caveat here that a lot of people are not taking into equation. There is also desirability, and then there is liquidity. Now, a lot of people do not understand liquidity. All is what liquidity is the price an item will sell for at auction. It doesn't mean if you have an item that you think is valued at $1,000 and you list it on eBay for $1,200 and 2 years after that listing, somebody says, you know what, I will pay you $1,200 for that particular item. Number one, it doesn't mean that that item's worth $1,200. And number two, it doesn't mean that the item had liquidity because it took you 2 years to sell it at that price. You guys need to understand this. Again, there are basically 4 factors of variability that apply to the market that determine how valuable and how in demand an item is. Again, condition, availability, desirability, and liquidity. Now let's talk a little bit about availability. Supply versus demand. You have to be careful here. If you go on any grading company's website that offers population reports, census statistics. Yeah, thank you, WADA, for not including that information at all, even though you've been around for how many years now. But all the other legitimate companies out there, like CGC, NGC, PCGS, PMG, whatever alphabet soup conglomerate we're talking about at present time, most likely they have a census population report that tells you guys how many collectibles they have and in which grade they were awarded. Well, this is where you got to be careful. If you look at certain items that are not high in demand, for instance, I'll use this as a great example. If you guys remember when third-party grading came to comic books, people were just pushing all sorts of crap to CGC to get it graded and see if they could flip it on the market for a profit. Well, as time went on, certain books obviously became more in demand than others. So you had some dealers that were sending in a copy of Tower of the Shadows 1. It was getting graded 9.4. And back around 2005, 2006, believe it or not, you could get $300, $400, $500 for that book because there weren't many on the market. Well, other dealers said, why stop with a copy of Tower of the Shadows 1? Let's grade a copy of Tower of Shadows 2. This is where it gets complicated. Other dealers said, well, guess what? Tower of Shadows 2 is not a rare comic book. Why on earth would I send that to get graded unless if it truly is in 9.8, 9.9, maybe 9.6 condition? But overall, it's not a key issue. So I'm not going to send my supply of Tower of Shadows 2 to get graded by CGC if they're only going to come back in 9.0, 9.2, 9.4 condition. Then I'm going to hold them in inventory and they're not going to sell. This is why you got to pay attention to supply versus demand. Some of you guys are just simply going on a grading company's website and you're pulling up information from the population report stating that, oh, look, there's only 5 copies of this particular comic book or this particular toy or this particular video game graded at present time. Therefore, it's rare. It may not have the desirability, and as a result, dealers and collectors are not sending that item to get graded. You need to understand this. This is utmost important. Now, another thing you need to know. You should never get an item graded just because you think it will increase its value. That is a fallacy. Most collectors, most people that have an emotional attachment to these items, they get this all wrong. They see a $10 Pokemon card that's mass-produced, it's a modern era card, and they look at it and they go, you know what, this is going to be the next big thing. I got to get my stack of $10 Pokemon cards graded. That is a major mistake, guys. You have to look at where the market's going. You also have to understand, is tying up your money and time with a grading company for 6 months to a year or longer to get that item graded back to you, is that the best use of those scarce resources, meaning your time and money? So this is something that you need to understand. A big mistake that I think that collectors make is they go to Barnes & Nobles or they log on to Amazon and they buy a book on how to grade coins or how to grade comic books or how to grade baseball cards. And they buy a magnifier, a loop, and a high-powered light, and they think they're an expert. Now, this is where we're going to get a little tinfoil hatty for all you conspiracy theorists out there. You got to understand that grading is always an inside job. There are tons of inside knowledge and insider information that dictates what an item will grade. It is not always black and white. There are probably some dealers out there that would look at this note graded by PMG in 65 condition and they would go, you know, this looks like a 64. Really doesn't look like a 65. I don't think I'd pay a premium for this. You must keep that in mind. Chances are, when PMG or any top tier grading company, and believe me, PMG is one of the best grading companies out there when it comes to grading currency. I put all my faith and trust in that company. They are part of the Certified Collectibles group out of Sarasota, Florida, that owns NGC, which grades coins, and CGC, which grades comic books. So I have no problem putting my trust in them. But really what it comes down to is, in all honesty, there's many factors that can determine grade. How much work does the grader have on that very day? How much stress is he under? Is he in a good mood? If he just banged his hot girlfriend, came to work, only has a half day, and he's getting this note for the first time, he may go, you know what? That might be a 64. I'm giving this note a 65 because I am in a great mood and I am singing zippity-doo-dock here and out for the rest of the day into my long holiday weekend. So you got to take that into account, guys. Grading a lot of times is more subjective than that of a science. It's more of an art form. Every grading company out there, I don't care if they're the top tier grading companies of the market. I don't care if they're new up and coming grading companies. Even if they have respect and confidence of the marketplace, they all make mistakes. Every single grading company out there has made a mistake from time to time. This is something you must understand. Grading is an inside job. No one can predict what a grading company is going to assign a grade to a particular item at any given time. I don't care if you tell me, Sean, you don't understand. I'm a coin dealer who has been dealing in rare coins for the last 20 years. Or Sean, I'm a comic book dealer who pretty much has storage units full of rare comic books because I've been collecting these ever since I was a kid growing up in the 1960s and 70s. I've been bagging them and boarding them as soon as bags and boards became available. And I have a near mint collection worth millions of dollars. It doesn't matter. You don't know how the grading companies are going to grade your items at any given time. You need to understand that. That's why when you guys come at me about graded coins, if you've ever heard of CAC, Certified Acceptance Corp, why was Certified Acceptance Corp created in the year 2006 by John Albanese? Reason being is NGC and PCGS got to the point where they were grading so many coins, they were grading them all over the map. There was very little consistency. So CAC came into the market and said, you know what? We need a grading company of grading companies to keep them honest. And that's pretty much how that market flourished. Now, this is very important because I got to state the golden rule here. The golden rule states that understanding what not to grade is usually just as profitable as knowing what to grade. This is key, guys. If it's not going to add value, if it doesn't affect any of these factors of value for the item in question, do not get it graded. Now, this is just an introductory video. We're going to expand on this concept further. Make no mistake, we're going hardcore into this shit. Now, I want to make sure that you guys are aware. I did a video on this channel on understanding the optimal collecting grade. Whether we're talking about comic books, coins, whatever the collecting category is. I encourage you all to watch that video because a lot of you guys are asking me to expand on that video. And what is it that I've been telling you? I can't expand on that video until I teach you the basics of to grade or not to grade. That is the question that we ask of thee. Very important that you see how both these pieces fit together to form the whole. Most people have no clue. They don't understand this stuff. They go through their lives thinking, I'm going to put all my money in collectibles because I don't trust those evil bankers on Wall Street. Not realizing this market, the antiques and collectibles trade, is manipulated in mass. The people that are manipulating Wall Street are learning that the collectibles market is even easier to manipulate because you don't have a Securities and Exchange Commission to deal with, guys. You can pretty much call the shots, and the little Timmies, they'll gather around and they'll go, I'm going to throw all my money at that collecting category because that dude over there told me that I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be an even bigger Timmy and I'm going to have more power, more money, and hot chicks. Well, guess what? These markets don't work that way. Said this a million times. So this is just a simple primer to get you to start thinking. The two key things you need to take out of this video. I'm going to do a recap quick before I end. Number one, understand, no matter what antique or collectible you are dealing with, there are only 4 factors that determine its value on the secondary market, whether it can be graded or not. Those are condition, availability, supply versus demand. Again, be careful here. Desirability and liquidity. That's all that matters. Everything else is Fugazi, and even you can argue, given the fact that the antiques and collectibles trade is a very niche speculative market overall, all of this is Fugazi too. Now, going forward, you need to understand opportunity cost. You cannot tie up your time and money in an item that is not going to bring you any type of financial investment, either in the short term or the long term. If you send something stupid to PSA that gets graded, you are going to be running at a loss, because if you get that card back 6 months, a year later, year and a half later, who knows, you flip it on eBay, you lose money on that. Guess what? Time value of money, guys. You got to research it. This is a finance principle. Same thing with opportunity cost being an economic principle. All this plays into the antiques and collectibles trade, and it is very important if you want to succeed in these markets. The last point, and again, I want to reiterate this. Understanding what not to grade is usually just as profitable as knowing what to grade. We are going to move on talking about this because that is key. You need to understand what not to grade and what to grade if you want to maximize profits. For instance, if you happen to have any $20 1922 large size gold certificates like this lying around, I don't care if it's over fine condition, get the note graded. It will sell for a premium. This baby is going in my personal collection, and I don't think I will ever part with it, at least for the next 10 years. So thank you for joining me. Have a great night, and I hope you got something out of this video. Thanks for watching.